To the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan.
And we're doing a good old-fashioned retrospect on a movie that's not nearly as old-fashioned, but damn if it's not a fantastic film.
It kind of came out and people forgot about it almost immediately, but it was a pretty damn good movie.
Oh yeah, it was totally lost, and it's one of these ones where like I'll meet people that have seen it kind of maybe 6 years later or so, which I guess that's about as far as you can get because it's not that old. And they go, oh, dude, this movie's fucking awesome. It's like a Fallout movie, but, you know, here it is. And it's not the most, like, the original movie to kind of do that style. Like, there's almost like a boy and his dog, who you could say is kind of the origin of Book of Eli, which is the movie we're talking about here.
They say the war tore a hole in the sky. Only a few survived. That was 30 winters ago. I have been walking ever since. Our only hope is in my hands. Some would kill to have it. I will kill to protect it. Put that hand on me again, you won't get it back.
All right, we're gonna do it the hard way.
And kind of leading into it. And in fact, they even got a cool poster in one of the rooms where Denzel Washington's at of a boy and his dog. And that movie right there is one of the main things that inspired Fallout. And they've taken a lot of things from A Boy and His Dog. Like dog meat is kind of like the derogatory term that, what's his name from Miami Vice? Don Johnson calls the dog in there when he's ever kind of pissed off at him. And, you know, they use that in all the Fallout games whenever there's a dog. Mm-hmm. So all those kind of neat things like that kind of... And I was even reading up more on The Boy and His Dog because... I watched that movie, and that's a fantastic film. If anybody's never seen that, it's like 1976, I think. Don Johnson, he's like a kid in it. And it's about him and this dog roaming the wasteland after, like, World War IV. And the dog's telepathic, and they talk to each other, and they're just trying to, like, you know, get by in life. And then next thing you know, he gets sucked into this underground world where it's kind of like this utopia, but since these people have been living underground for so long, they can't reproduce, so they hook up Don Johnson to like a jerk-off machine and try to steal his life sperm. And, you know, if you play a Fallout game, that seems to happen all the time, where, you know...
You get hooked up and you get jerked off by a machine.
Yeah, and you gotta fight it off, and then you realize it's your fucking own son that's down there trying to jerk you off. It's so fucking weird. And he's older than you.
Wait, does that happen in there somehow?
Or? In Fallout 4. Not the jerk-off machine. But...
Oh, okay. Well, no, I haven't finished Fallout 4.
Oh, you haven't finished Fallout 4 yet? Oh, well.
We'll finish it one day.
The son doesn't jerk you off, if that's what you want.
Oh, yeah. Like, oh, wow, that took a really...
It's like, hi, Dad, you know...
So, you know, let's just skip the small talk and let's just get to the nitty-gritty of it.
Yeah, it's just like, I know we haven't seen each other in a long time, and you think that I'm probably just a boy, but no, I'm a 68-year-old man, you know, jerking you off.
Sorry, that's the future. Everyone's far more open-minded here. Yeah. Just, you know,
we're all cool like that. Like,
just drop the drawers. Let's go. That's when you get the like option of things to say, like, no, son, this isn't right, and okay, or like, you know, like, or try to convince or whatever. 20%.
Yeah. But Book of Eli kind of stemming from that kind of...
No jerk-off machine.
Yeah, it stems from the the mix between Road Warrior and A Boy and His Dog, and goes into this just totally fantastic movie. And watching it again, I'm like, this movie's like a pure perfect movie. There's nothing wrong with it. Like, everything about it is great. Whole movie through, you're excited. And, it about runs just a tad bit under 2 hours.
It's by the Hughes brothers, but the same guys who brought us From Hell.
Yeah, they did From Hell. They did all those other movies like Dead Presidents, and there's some other 90s one that they did too. I'm drawing a blank.
They didn't do Boys in the Hood, didn't they?
Yeah, the Boys to the Hood, or not Boys in the Hood. Because Boys in the Hood was I think I wrote down. Menace to Society, that's what
Menace
it was.
to Society.
Because Boys in the Hood was the Ice Cube one.
Okay.
But they did all these kind of different movies here, and then this one, I can't remember the exact reason why they were on such a long hiatus between doing Alan Moore's fucking
From
Hell book with Johnny Depp. Which that's a cool movie too. But yeah, there's like a 10-year span between those two movies, all the way up till Book of Eli.
And Book of Eli was fantastic. I thought that was a great
Book of Eli's great. And it was one of those movies that kind of came out underneath the radar. I think it did well in theaters, good enough. I think it made over twice the amount of money that it cost to make, so...
One thing we should say real quick, because, we probably, if you listen to this, probably know by this point it's going to be a lot of spoilers in this. But the thing about the movie is semi, not entirely, semi kind of a Christian film. But not in a too much of a bad, preachy kind of way. I almost feel like...
More like in a historical way, I feel, is like kind of what the Christian... It's not like... There's nothing preachy in the movie, and it's not like it's made to be like a Bible thumper film or anything like that. It more just happens to be about a guy who's carrying around the last Bible on Earth because they were all destroyed after the war, thinking that was the cause of the war. And he's just almost like sort of here. He's on like a mission from God, like fucking Blues Brothers style.
We didn't say the main character, Denzel Washington.
Yeah, Denzel Washington, who's Eli. And he's carrying around this book, so he's got the last book on Earth of the Bible, somehow, some way. And he's on this crusade to get it to San Francisco, pretty much. God's just telling him to go west. That's, in a sense, what it's kind of saying. And, I guess when he gets out there, the whole point's preserve sort of history.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, though, I think that in lesser hands... This would have... Because when you say that concept, he has to get the Bible...
It really sounds like a Christian movie. Now, when I explain that sounds such like a fucking Christian movie.
It really sounds like something like... But you watch the movie, there's enough violence and swearing in it. And then the way they present it... Because you say that, there's no way... It sounds like, it's like a Christian film. But as it goes on, though, it's more... You're not going to walk away knowing anything new about the Bible. It's just more of just kind of like, yeah, there's some good things in the Bible, take from it, and it treats it more like loosely, kind of like it is like you said, like a mission of God thing. And there's little things they get across.
It's a mission from God.
Yeah, he just needs Dan Aykroyd and like John Belushi with him.
Would you watch a Blues Brothers 3 movie, even if it didn't have those guys in, but it was a post-apocalyptic Blues Brothers movie, and they had to get back the band after a nuclear fallout?
If it was post-apocalyptic, yes.
I never saw. We gotta put the band. They come out of a fallout shelter, like we gotta get the band back together. It's the only way we could save this planet. It was with blues music.
I never saw Blues Brothers 2000.
You never saw that one? It's
No,
good.
I hear mixed things about it. It seems so weird to do without John Belushi.
It is weird, but they got John Goodman.
Yeah, and I love John Goodman, but it seems such like a weird thing. You know what I mean? But it's like, regardless, though. I mean, I might see it one day. That sounds like going post-apocalyptic with Blues Brothers. I'd see that, but it was just another one. I'm like, oh, wait till it comes on Netflix.
Yeah. No. That's just a cool idea, but still, going back to Book of Eli, so he's on this kind of mission, and he's just kind of walking the wasteland for like 30 years. And the nice thing about this movie is they don't really explain too much of what happened. All you know is that some kind of nuclear attack happened. They don't really say what caused it, except for that it obviously involved like Christians and so on, because the whole point was to burn the whole Bibles at the very end of that war, assuming that was the main cause of it. But what's kind of nice about this movie is it almost depicts two different types of Christian people. It depicts almost like the good version, which is Denzel Washington, and then you got Gary Oldman, who's like the horrible Christian, which is like almost like the ones you see all the time in life. Mm-hmm. The guy that was going to use the Bible as a weapon, and that's kind of an interesting thing where Denzel, he's just there to do his thing and almost to preserve it as like, hey, here's this good way to live by life, and this is what I do. It doesn't mean you have to do it. And then there's the guy who's like, no, we can take this. We can get we can get other towns under our control, take over the world with this Bible. because the power in it, people will believe us.
Because the words. If I had the right, I have the power, I have the strength. If I just had the right words, I can get people on my side.
Yeah, exactly. Which is
I can make
like
I can make them not fear death if I just had the right words and the right passages, and they'd fall under it, like, you know. So, and there's a part where he even. We should say this real quick. There is a part, like, this is almost like the prequel before the movie. On the special features, there's a motion comic about Gary Oldman's character. And
he was just a boy.
it's called Billy. And it's
Billy boy.
And basically what it is it opens up. You see he lives somewhere in the South, and he has some in the ghetto. And like, he has like some redneck mom who just sit in like this house falling
Smoking
apart.
cigarettes, just like, ugh, I'm fucking pregnant here, watching the tube.
And just writing checks to like some like televised evangelical like programming, and he just hates it. He kind of sees it, and then at some point he goes up to his room. This part, even though it's meant to be like scary and sad, I can't help but find this kind of funny. He
Pulls out like a nudie magazine.
Yeah, he pulls out a nudie magazine. He's looking at it. Then all of a sudden, like, you hear a pickup pull in, like this big, like haggard redneck wife beating dad.
Like a beer in his hand, fucking cross hanging down his like wife beater.
Throws the beer at his kid. Smacks the kid, takes the magazine,
Smacks him like 4 or 5 times.
Then walks out with it, and then later, like, they're all passed out. You see he just looks around like, oh, whatever. You see he's pouring, like, gasoline, like, in a trash can. And this is all silent. This just has music, and it's just this graphic comic, this motion comic. He's pouring gasoline in this trash can, drops a bunch of checks that he was supposed to be sending to the church in there, sets it on fire, kicks it, causes a stream, heads up to the fire.
Because he filled the entire house of gas.
Yeah, but they were almost trying to keep it kind of like a secret up until that point.
Yeah.
Then it kicks it over, leads a stream of gas to the house, ignites in flame, walks out of there smiling with his bag, and it just says Billy Carnegie. And the only name Gary Oldman goes by in the movie is Carnegie.
Yeah. And he just burned his parents to death, and it's like that's kind of like the origin of that character. It'd be kind of interesting if they would have strung that somehow, some way into the movie. Mm-hmm. I know it'd probably throw off that movie might throw off the pacing a bit, you know, but it's kind of cool. It's like in The Watchmen, like the ultimate cut, you get the little animated segment thrown in there.
Mm-hmm. I need to see that at some point. Dude.
Yeah, that's the best version of The Watchmen by far.
But so basically, one of the coolest things about this movie is how you see kind of how the world works. Just through little interactions. Mm-hmm. It's the tiny interactions, and even though I love the violence and I love the action in the movie, it's all the small things. Like, one of the best scenes in the movie to me is when Eli goes to this town. Basically, he's trying to get to San Francisco. You don't really know where he's at exactly.
He's just saying he's going west.
They say west, and then when he gets there...
Well, you obviously kind of realize he's in... Like, I'm
Modesto.
Yeah, like, that's what I assume. It's got to be, like, Modesto, maybe even a smaller town than that, like one of those little teeny valley towns, you know, even Stockton. Because, like, he goes to Sacramento.
It looked like they were filming on site in Stockton. Some of those spots.
Yeah. Well, because he goes to Sacramento at one point, because you see the two, like, nuclear reactor towers that are up there.
Yeah.
So that kind of almost gives it away. I mean, you probably wouldn't notice that first time watching it, but once you know that he's going to San Francisco at the end, you kind of can piece together. It's like, oh, well, that's got to be Sacramento, just based on the distance it takes to get there and everything. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's just some kind of valley town in California, and this is where he kind of runs into Gary Oldman, and Gary Oldman's kind of running this town here. And what were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say when he first gets to that town, one of the best scenes I think is when he gets to like Tom Waits. Tom Waits runs a shop, and kind of like you see all the little things they do. Like, I like how nothing's really explained in the movie. You just see it through their interaction. You know?
And it's almost like, it treats the audience with some sort of respect. You don't have to, like, explain anything to them.
And, like, you see him, he comes in, like, as soon as he walks in, the guy's pointing a gun at him. He's just, like, puts his hands out. Look,
see your hands, boy.
I'm not one of them. I'm not one of them. Then he's just like, all right, well, you have to get out. Just takes the gun from him, points it at Tom Waits. He says, I'm not one of them. I'm going to reach in my bag and give you the gun back. Okay? Okay? And he slowly hands the gun back. And then by the end of the scene, even though they just had a gun drawn on them and they still don't trust each other, they are kind of a little bit more friendly with each other.
It's just the way that the world reacts, you know?
Yeah, and like he's reaching in there, he's just like, okay, so here's what I got. I got lighters. I got lighters, nice, but I got a bunch of these. What else you got? Then he pulls out, it's like some of the small things you don't think about. Moist towelettes from KFC are some of the biggest currency there. Like, I need more of these. You got more of these?
You know that's kind of weird? If you've ever had any of those things, like after about 3 years or so, those things are almost always dried up. So I don't know how after 30 years these things are still fine. It's not really a complaint, but I'm just saying, like, because sometimes you have those things like in your car, and you're like, oh, I need to fucking wash my hands. Where's those things? You're like, oh, god damn it, it's all dry.
That had to be one of the only ways they can get in some like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Product placement.
Product placement without it being too like crowbarred in there.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not complaining. Well, they have a couple of those because he also has like Dre
Motorola
headphones on, and an iPod, and.
He has like there's like the only one that like blatant like just really stood out to me, and I understand, but it's like Gary Oldman pulls out a megaphone just front and center. It says Motorola across it, like front and center, and it's only for a second, but it really stands out. But it's not that big of a deal. And they have this great interaction, this great bartering scene. It's kind of like those small scenes like that. Mm-hmm. They're just bartering, trying to like trade things back and forth. She's like, what about like when he goes to get to water to the place across the street, like when he's like pulling out just like different like things like, oh, here I got some leather gloves, I got this, I got that. That'll get you about halfway full,
Yeah, everything's a barter system to trade. And actually, before he even gets to the town, there's kind of another interesting scene beforehand, which almost explains this world that once you've seen a handful of post-apocalyptic, you kind of assume this stuff, but it still works well where. He comes across, there's like this girl that's like all beaten up and mangled underneath like a shopping cart. And she's like, oh, mister, I need some help. And he kind of walks up to her, but he knows that it's a trap. And then all of a sudden, he's like, I can smell that there's 5 others here. Because I can always tell, because in this day and age, everybody's got a scent to them because nobody can take showers.
And he even said something to the lines of like, best part about free soup, you can smell hijackers 5 miles off.
Yeah. So like, they kick it down, they're like, oh, you got us, whatever. And then they get into this big fight, which is kind of neat. And the thing is, too, like, this is kind of, I guess, the big spoiler, because you don't learn this to the end, but Denzel Washington's blind through this movie. But, like, after you know that from the end of the movie, you can watch it from the beginning and see all the points of, like, oh, like, here's the things. Like, 1, he seems to smell things more. 2, he backs them into the darkness because he doesn't really need to see. I kind of vision that he can see, but he just has really horrible sight. Mm-hmm. Like, that kind where, like, everything's kind of blurry. He can still make out objects and things like that, but he can't read and he can't really see well. So he's pretty much blind, and that's I guess also where like he's following the word of God, and that's like what's taking him on his path. Though he's this blind man who also knows martial arts and all this kind of stuff too.
Which I almost kind of took.
He's pretty much like Daredevil, I guess. Out in the
old haggard Daredevil, and like the first shot they show of the movie, it's almost very artsy. Like the first 10 minutes of the movie or so. There's no real dialogue. It's almost like this weird arts film. He's out in this like dead forest. Ash is coming down.
Yeah, just totally radiated because he's got this big, huge suit on and everything like that.
And he's in this like he's holding back this big ass bow and arrow. There's a corpse there. He's waiting for some animal to come by. It's a cat. Takes the cat out.
And it's a hairless cat too.
Yeah, so you don't feel as bad for it. So it's not so cute. So eat the fuck out of that cat. But
I think that's more just to do. It's like it's been radiated, so it doesn't have fur anymore.
That too, but I think it's also just kind of like, well, you don't want to see him kill a cute cat, I think that's almost like just the settling. Plus, at the same point, like, I don't like seeing animals die in movies, but it's Denzel Washington. It's Denzel Washington. He can kill whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah, he needs to survive. Goddamn.
Yeah. There's plenty of cats. There's only one Denzel. So. Anyway, so he's then walking down the road and he's coming across like very like they don't flat out say, I need some boots, but you can kind of look. He has tattered boots. He's checking corpses and skeletons along the way, checking their feet, and then he comes to this little old abandoned house, and in there he's just walking around. There's a punk rocker looking guy that hung himself. Mm-hmm. He finds the boots, like, oh yeah, he's pretty good. That's another thing he said, because he's always feeling.
Yeah, because it's like the first time you watch the movie, he doesn't explain that he's blind until literally like the last 5 minutes of the movie. So it's kind of cool going back and watching it. And I know that kind of gives it away if you've never seen it before, but not too bad. It's just neat to be able to go back and watch it and then kind of point out like, oh, you see it all coming, but like you would never really notice it because they do it so well of kind of hiding it. Mm-hmm. That he's blind.
Because he's always wearing those sunglasses, too.
Yeah, he's mostly always wearing sunglasses.
And when he's not wearing them, it's pretty, like, low lighting, so you can't see his eyes. Because they have that kind of, like, glassed over, like...
a little bit over him and stuff. And so, yeah, he's always feeling things and things like that, too. And you could say maybe he has superpowers from being, like...
One, because they don't really...
Radiation.
It could be that, too. The voice in his head is just crazy.
Yeah, it's just really, he's kind of like Deadpool. He's got multiple voices in his head. He thinks it's God.
I was gonna say one thing they could possibly be is like, yeah, I was wondering if it's one of two things. It's either he has a voice telling him the whole time, okay, there's a guy on your left, shoot there. There's a guy on your right, shoot there. Stand where you are, turn around, shoot. It's either that, or it's a possibility of just kind of like, I think it's more of that than it is, because he says he's following a voice in his head. I think it's more of that than what I'm about to say. It could also be that like he sort of has vision again, because he still, when the body's hanging there, he kind of backs away. So it was like he was blind at one point, but now he has his sight back because he's on this mission. But I think it's more, but I think given other things, it's more likely he probably has the voice telling him what to do.
Yeah, and I still think it's one of those ones like, I think he's got partial vision, just like not enough to be able to, like he couldn't read like a regular book. He has to read like Braille or something like that. You know, he can see, but it's pretty deteriorated.
And then once he gets to, like, it's also the small things you don't think about, like when it's like the most quiet moments of this movie are my favorite parts, even though the action is badass.
Oh yeah, when there's action in this movie, it's some of the coolest action. Going back to that scene where like he finds that girl there and it's a trap, and he leads him back into like the dark kind of underpass. He has this badass battle where he's like, he takes out his blade and he fights off like 6 guys, and one guy's got a chainsaw, one guy's got an axe and all this stuff, and he's just taking them all down. And Denzel in this movie was trained by one of Bruce Lee's prodigies, who, strange enough, was born in Stockton, so maybe this all ties it together, like why this is in that kind of area. So he was trained like by Bruce Lee's guy, and they just have these great fight scenes in. There's probably maybe only about 3 of them in the movie, but when they are there, they're so cool.
In each fight scene, though, it's way different than the other, just the way it's shot and presented. The first fight scene, he backs him into this shadow, into the shady overpass. So all you see is their silhouettes, and it's almost like a side scroller. His like the side vision, just silhouettes fighting. You can kind of totally tell what's going on, and it's almost kind of like Western action because there's a build up, and when it happens very quick. It's over really quick, but it's very brutal and hard, and kind of like Faster, which Faster is one we should do at some point.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah, so he knocks all these guys down. It's a very quick scene. And each action scene is shot a little different. And then later, there's another scene we'll get to where he's fighting in a brawl, and he's fighting like 15, 20 guys, give or take. The camera is rotating. It happens so quick, but he's knocking all these guys out. And then then there's the next one after that. It's a shootout. It's a very traditional style shootout, which still looks good, but it's over pretty quick, but it still looks cool. Then the next one, the final action scene, I guess, it's constantly rotating. It's rotating around a whole scene with another shootout, kind of going to one side of the battlefield to the other side.
Yeah.
You know?
So yeah, they change it up each time, but every single one of them is really cool. And as I said, yeah, there's probably maybe about 5 major action scenes maybe in this whole movie. You know, if that even. And then like maybe a couple little tidbit ones too. But other than that, but it works so well.
It's such a good movie. And then, so once he gets to this small little town, first off, he eats the cat in this little abandoned house, cooks the cat. And it's just a very nice, quiet moment. He puts on some old R&B. He's listening to it, and
he's got this little motorcycle battery that he's carrying around, so he can like charge his iPod and any other electronics he sort of has. And that's the whole reason he kind of goes to the town in the first place, to find Tom Waits. He's like, "Yo, I need you to charge this battery."
And that's where they have the bartering system. Then he goes in there like, "You guys got water here?" So then he goes across the street. That's where we're introduced to Gary Oldman, who's the guy who runs this town, and pretty much he runs it and rules it with pussy, booze, and fear. That's what he kind of keeps it going. And before he even gets there, Denzel witnesses like a young traveling couple get ambushed by a bunch of marauders, and those guys just kill the guy, rape the girl,
kill the girl. Yeah,
they don't really show it. They just show it. They imply enough of it. And then once he gets there, he kind of, these guys roll into town. You see, they work for Gary Oldman, and Gary Oldman's looking for a book. They don't say what book. He's just looking for a book.
So they have these kind of like Neanderthal guys go out, and they just keep bringing back piles of books and magazines and stuff, thinking that they're going to find the right one. And then they can't figure out why. They're like, "What the fuck? We like keep bringing books back. What do you mean it's not the right one?" It's like, "Not the right book. I'll know it when I see it." And Gary Oldman, I guess you could say, because Gary Oldman and both Denzel Washington, what makes those two characters kind of unique is they're some of the only older people in this entire story. Everybody else is pretty much young. Everybody's maybe like in their 20s or so, and then these guys happen to be the guys that are over 50 years old. You know, roaming the wasteland. So they have knowledge of like a world before the nuclear fallout. Because I think it's supposed to be about 30 years since then. And I'm guessing since the movie's made about 2010, the movie takes place about 2040, give or take.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what I'm going with. So these two guys are both guys that come from a world that was, civilized at one point. They both know how to read. They both know how to write. They both know all these things like that. Where everybody else is kind of like they never learned how to read, never learned how to write, never learned how to do things. They just know how to kind of survive, and that's it.
And Gary Oldman gives a great bad guy speech, which he's fantastic at. But an especially good one in this one. He says, "It's ironic, guys like you and me, we're the future because we know how the world used to run." So
yeah, and it's just these interesting things like that. And Gary Oldman's always fantastic, but this one he's just as good as always.
I was really glad to see him kind of play, even though he was somewhat of a villain in this movie came afterwards. Somewhat of a villain in Rise of Planet of the Apes or Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and then
is he in Rise too?
No, he's not.
Okay, I can't remember if he wasn't.
I get confused which one is which, but the most recent Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
He was in that, and he was kind of a villain, not really, but kind of a villain.
Yeah.
More misunderstood kind of character. And even though he's really good at that, even though he's really good at the villains, I still like it when he plays like a Commissioner Gordon, where he's not playing the villain, he's playing like the good guy, because he can do that pretty well. But this is one of those roles where he's like just doing a fantastic job, is like the over the top villain.
Well, and the thing too is he's not really over the top in this one. It's not like, you look at other Gary Oldman
He's
roles
very much
like
a Western
True
villain,
Romance.
though. He's very much a Western villain.
Yeah, well, he is, but I don't consider him over the top. I think this is I guess as far as Gary Oldman goes, it's pretty grounded.
Let me put it this way. I guess in other contexts, he is blatantly he is definitely like a Western villain. Like, this guy is bad. No two ways around it. But I guess you're right. In comparison to things Gary Oldman usually plays as a villain,
yeah,
it is kind of like, oh, that's pretty held back for Gary Oldman.
Yeah, that's what I mean. For him, it's pretty grounded, and it feels more like a regular person in a sense that just happens to want to take over the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just a regular guy that wants to take over.
Just because that's how it kind of feels. It doesn't feel like he's like the super villain guy. He just happens to run this town and wants this book so he can take over more towns.
Yeah, he's got ambition. No, but so after Denzel goes there, he sees Solara, played by
Mila Kunis.
Mila Kunis.
Who apparently I was originally going to be played by Kristen Stewart.
Yeah, was going to be played by Kristen Stewart?
Yeah.
I can see that being
She couldn't do it because of the Twilight movies, but... Mm-hmm. Which, I would say this, I like Mila Kunis more, but she could have probably done a good job doing it. Yeah, I would say it feels almost like you could see where maybe it was a little bit more geared towards her at first, and then they kind of rearranged it for Mila Kunis. But
because I'll say that, I don't know how old the two of them are. Kristen Stewart looks younger and comes across younger, so I think.
But I really don't think, because Mila Kunis is really not. I think she's only 35 or something right now, so she's probably 30 in that movie, if not maybe a tad bit younger.
Mm-hmm. And I could see. I think Kristen Stewart is around our age, so
yeah, she
would have been
years younger.
20. So when that movie came out, she probably would have been 23 or 24,
which probably would have seemed a little bit more logical for how that kind of character is supposed to be aged around, but still,
it seems like she's kind of playing an 18-year-old or maybe a 20-year-old.
Yeah, that's kind of how it feels in the movie.
Yeah, but regardless, Mila Kunis did a great job. So, as the movie goes on, though, so she sees Eli beat the fuck out of all these guys in this bar. After it's of the smallest thing, it's just Denzel being Denzel. He's just trying to mind his own business. Some fucking inbred hillbilly starts some shit.
Well, no, because what Denzel does is he's trading with the bartender guy, and he pushes this cat out of the way, and the guy comes up and he's like, "That's my fucking pussy. You don't fucking move." Was that cat bothering me? He's like, "Well, I was just shooing her away." What? So you got a problem with this cat? Well, this cat's been coming to this bar for 20 years. Hell, this cat drinks more alcohol than any other person in this bar. So I'm saying this cat has more of a right to be in here than you. Which almost comes across kind of like racist, because there's no other black guy in the bar. So this is one of these horrible old-fashioned Western things, which actually now makes sense, feels very Western right there.
It definitely is a Western in this movie. And then he comes in.
So Mr. Jingles here, you shouldn't be fucking around with. He's like, well, I was just pushing the cat out of the way. Well, yeah, we'll fucking take this. And they get this big fight, and then it's badass.
But then he just does a thing where he just grabs the guy, slams his face to the fucking bar. His mouth is all blooded up. He says I know who you are. You're a killer and rapist of the road and da-da-da-da. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my stuff and I'm going to leave. All right? We're going to do... Then he suddenly becomes cool Denzel. All right, but he stands him up, puts his hands on his shoulder. I'm going to leave. Okay, man? I'm just going to get my stuff and wait for my water to come back and I'm gone. Okay? He's like, okay. Then he falls over. I'm not sure if the guy got if that somehow killed him or if it just knocked him out and the guy just falls over. Denzel's like, fuck. He grabs his shit. He's about to walk out. A couple of guys stand in the way with their weapons out. And that's where he's reciting a passage from the Bible, saying like, basically at the end of the day, you're all gonna fucking die. Just a nice poetic way of saying it. And that's where this big badass scene happens where it just kind of rotates around this fight scene, just solely centering on Denzel.
Yeah. And just another badass one. And then from there, Gary Oldman kind of takes an interest in this guy and kind of puts him up in his room with his fucking boy and his dog poster.
Puts him in the room. He
gives him food, kind of comforts him, because he hears that this guy's somebody else who can read, and he has some kind of book, or he has a knowledge of a book.
He just has a knowledge. He's just like, oh, well, you're an old guy like me. Someone else who actually does a really good job is Ray Stevens. Mm-hmm. Ray Stevens does a fantastic job because he's the right-hand man, but they kind of give him a lot more of a character, a lot more of a personality than your average right-hand man.
Well, the nice thing, too, because he's really not a bad guy. He's just kind of a guy taking a job, it seems like. He doesn't want to do evil things, but he knows that in this kind of world, you gotta kind of sort of take this job, or else, it's all about survival, but he doesn't want to do evil things,
The only thing that's kind of weird is he's kind of creepy when it comes to, like, Mila Kunis.
He's like, I want that little girl. I want her. As long as I get her, I'll be happy. And I can retire on a farm and have a good time.
What are you gonna farm out there? I don't know, like irradiated corn or something.
I want one of them 2-headed cows that I can ride.
We all remember that Fallout game before them Bobs came down? Need a Brahmin.
Yeah, well, give me a Brahmin. Want to ride one. Roll me over, turn me around. Let me keep spinning till I hit the ground. You remember that song, right, Gary?
We get on the jukebox.
That's all we got left.
Thin Lizzy is the only... Like, just that track of that album is the only thing they have left.
It's like, I just want to live that life. Cowboys laugh at the laugh at me.
No, but he's just living his life strictly by that song. He's just like, all right, well, all I got to get me is a Brahmin. And it doesn't, that's all we got is a Brahmin. Yeah, I got to get me a woman.
It's like a bull in the rodeo.
Shit, I can make a rodeo. I can just like roll some rocks together, make a makeshift fence. Yeah, there you go.
Charge admission.
Yeah, people like that shit. We need some joy out here in the wasteland.
It's got like in A Boy and His Dog. There's a part where they come up and they like to like a movie theater where they've like gated it all around and stuff. And they're charging sort of like a mission by like bartering and whatnot to get in there. And that's kind of like, oh, there's those movies. We got an old projector that we can show stuff to.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I mean, I almost want to say in that movie they're like watching like some kind of weird like nudie picture or something like that, because in the wasteland.
You don't got the internet, so why not?
Exactly. And also, in A Boy and the Dog, they make it up because there's like almost like no women like whatsoever. Like that's like the most rarest thing out in the wasteland. It's just a bunch of dudes fucking like circle jerking.
So basically, Ray Stevens is kind of like. He's kind of like, oh yeah, you should take him up on his offer. He knows what he's doing. You get good work working for this guy. And he seems kind of like he doesn't really, he does, like you said, he doesn't want to do bad things, but he's just trying to be a realist about the whole thing. So he just takes the job. Like probably if he wasn't in the society, he'd probably be a normal guy just working at a propane shop somewhere.
That's kind of it. It's just a nice guy, but he happens just in this kind of world.
And then the only thing that's just odd about him is just the whole like Mila Kunis thing. She's like, I want the woman. Beyond that, though,
but I think it's just that kind of weird thing where it's just like once again, I don't think there's a whole lot of women out in this world either. Mm-hmm. So it is kind of like she seemed nice. She doesn't seem infected, diseased. Not the rest of them not muted. I don't want none of them mutant women. There's
actually another thing about this because we see this once he's up in Gary Oldman's like room in his main area. We see that like he primarily because Mila Kunis' mom is blind, mm-hmm. and you see that he primarily has a bunch of blind people working for him.
Yeah.
It's like small things like that, And
I don't know if that blindness maybe came from the fallout or something like that, too. Those diseases might have spread just with radiation. Who knows?
He said that happened, but then the mom said no, she got it because of the because she was just born that way. But it was a common thing where people were blinded from the fallout and the radiation. And then he's all like, well, he's not going to stay. He's a warrior or whatever. He's not going to stay here. And he's like, well, it looks like I'm just going to have to, get your daughter to fuck him, I guess, So that's what Mila Kunis goes there up to his room in a sexy little nightie. Mm-hmm. Denzel's like, no, let's just read the Bible instead. It all kind of works out, though,
Yeah. Well, at first, like, no, you get out of here. I don't want you. She's like, no, I have to stay here. He'll beat my mom if, you don't let me stay here.
So he's like, all right. So he stays, and then he says, we're just gonna do. He kind of teaches her about the old ways without like going too much into it.
Yeah, like they sit down. He's like, "There's more than enough food for me here." So they sit down. He's like, "Let's have a meal. How old people used to have meals and stuff." Where we'd sit down and bitch about each other's date. No, they sit down. They have a night. They say grace, and she kind of learns all these weird things like that. And they have this almost like nice kind of like moment. But from him kind of teaching her some of those things, when she goes back to have like a meal with both Gary Oldman and her mom, she says grace, and he's like, whoa, where'd you fucking hear that?
Well, what I like about that is like she's trying to like remember everything he said, like thank you for the company, thank you for the food, all this and that. And just then there's something. And Gary Oldman, you see the look on his face is slowly changing. He's getting a shave by one of his blind servants. And he turns around, and he says like, "You're thinking of amen."
Yeah, that's the last part of it.
That's how you say you're done. He just walks over to her.
He said he read
it. He said he read every day. Where'd you learn that?
What the fuck is he reading every day?
Yeah, and then that's where it's just like it's one of those things. He grabs her. He's like, "You're hurting your mother, Solara." What? He's just pulling on her hair, just like shaking her. It's like, this is almost where I think in lesser hands it would have came like a preachy Christian book. That book has power. What was the mark on it? It had a mark on it. What it look like? Then she puts her fingers together, making a cross. And he's like,
she's like, oh, I had this. Like, she was like a pentagram. Like, oh, that's the book he's carrying around.
That will probably work too.
I don't care. It doesn't matter what it is. Hell, give me a Norse book. Fuck, I don't give a fuck.
It's like a Scientology book or something.
It had a picture of this guy on it. She points a picture of Mission Impossible 2. Because there's all these posters hanging up of different movies and that, all over that place. So it wouldn't be that out of context. The point that points to one of like risky businesses.
Any like Warner Brothers film that Tom Cruise is involved in.
Yeah.
So it's like points at Last Samurai or something.
Yeah, had that guy on it.
But so then he's like, oh, we gotta get this fucking guy. Then he goes over to his room. He's not there. And this is like one of those things like I feel bad for this guy, but I like this part because it's just some of those small things you never really see in movies. Like you'll see they fuck up, but like the guard fucks up somehow and they kill the guard.
Well, he's like, where'd he go? He's like, oh no, I was standing here all night.
And he like had one of these things like they go in there, they look around, like he's gone, he's fucking gone. They just walk by, and the guy had this look like, I don't know, it's hard to explain because it's like you've had this at your job, but you never see it like this in the movie. The guy's just like, I was just trying to. I'm sorry. I was trying. Like not even like, boss. I was here all. It was just like, I'm sorry. I was trying. No, so boom, shoots him in the head. And, like Ray Stevens doesn't even look. He's just like, oh, whatever. It's almost kind of like, you know what? I'm just gonna make it quick for this guy. Carney needs to make it bad for him. So boom.
Yeah, it's almost like it felt like
mercy.
Once
kill.
again, yeah. He knows that if he doesn't kill the guy like this, it's just gonna be worse for him. So it's just like whatever. I'm doing you a favor. Like I don't want to. I'm the guy that's got to fire you from your job. I don't want to, but I'm going to make it quick and easy. And firing in this world means killing.
Carnegie wants to send you down to the fuck dungeon, so we'll just do it this way. And then, like, they confront him out there, and this is where he gives one of his great Gary Oldman bad guy speeches. Like, if I just had the words, the power of that book, that kind of thing.
We could take over towns. We could take over the world. And everything like that.
And like, Denzel's like, nah, man.
He's like, Ray Stevens, what are we going to do tonight?
Roll me over and turn. That's all he ever fucking don't ask him. That's all he ever fucking says. Okay.
But the same thing we do every night. We're gonna look for the Bible.
Dun 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 dun.
He's Gary Oldman. He's going to take over the world. Da, 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 da. He's looking for the Bible.
So
he's got Ray Stevenson as his pinky brother.
I'd watch that. Yeah. No, but so what ends up happening is they have this whole like back and forth. They get in this shootout right there, and Denzel just annihilates these fuckers just without even trying. Like
they have this cool moment where like the first couple shots they just go past Denzel as he's walking with his back turned, and so the rest of the guys other than Gary Oldman start going like, oh fuck, maybe this guy is some like holy man, this spirit, from God knows where. He's got this power that he can't be killed. So for a while there, during the shootout, he doesn't get hit whatsoever, but he shoots all these other guys with, like, pure accuracy.
And then, like, Gary Oldman's just like, I like this guy. She's like, you got guns? Fucking shoot him! Because they're all, like, stopping. The fuck are you standing around for? Just loses his shit. And then he gets to this big shootout, And something I do like about this movie is a lot of times, someone gets shot in the arm or leg, and it's just like, oh, just let me like pinch that out and walk it off. And this one,
you get shot, it carries the whole rest of the movie. Yeah.
Gary Oldman gets shot in the leg, and the rest of the movie that's with him, and that's like
what kills him.
Fucks him over. He's shot in the leg, like, oh god, fucking damn it, because you don't think, oh yeah, in this world you don't got proper medical facilities, you're low on medicine. You get something small as a gunshot wound in the leg,
and you get infected. That's
you're
it.
Fucked. Yeah,
that's what happens. Is he gets infected towards the end, and ends up passing away because of it.
We don't even see it, but it's implied basically.
Yeah.
There's a deleted scene where it happens, but I like the way they do it more in the movie.
Yeah, because I guess technically the deleted scene, it shows him laying in bed, and it shows the blind Mila Kunis' mom reading the Bible.
Which I like the idea where she just let him die. It's like, you're losing your power, you're losing your grip on the city. Fuck you, and walks out. So here's this guy.
Well, she doesn't, because since she's blind, it's kind of this all towards the end. But she literally goes up and puts her hand on his forehead, and he almost has it where it's almost like a priest putting the hand, cure me with your blind power.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, taking it, and the thing was that she's just going yep, I can tell because I can smell your infection and I can feel that you have a fever. You're dying.
Mm-hmm.
And she's almost laughing because she knows that this is it. That there's nothing more for you. Which she probably shouldn't be laughing because now there's a bunch of starved, Maisie, maniacs downstairs tearing the place up, raping and pillaging down there, which is the last thing you want if you're blind and a woman.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing she probably has an escape plan. She
jumps in a fucking rocket and shoots out it.
She's been planning it for years. I'm guessing she has an escape
plan.
For
30 years, she's been building this rocket.
The only thing is she's blind, so it's pointing in the wrong direction. So
it's facing downwards.
So we're kind of on a blind people marathon. We had
Daredevil.
Oh, the main kind of took a break with E equals Dare. Now we got this, so we're back on our blind people thing. But anyway, so but then Denzel gets out of there, kills a fuck ton of guys. This is where he has one of those moments with Ray Stevens. Ray Stevens has the gun drawn on him, looks him in the eye, has it drawn, and just pulls away. You're not sure if it's out of respect or out of maybe there is something more to this guy. Maybe he is
maybe this isn't somebody we should be just killing and raping and murdering like everybody else.
Yeah, and he just lets him go. And just whatever, because Carnegie's not there. He's okay, I'll just pull my gun down, fuck off. And then he's oh, we're still chasing after this guy?
Because then Carnegie realizes, this is the man with the bomb, we gotta chase him down. So they get in this Mad Max vehicles and start chasing after there. And Denzel and then Mila Kunis comes to follow Denzel. And he's no, you go back, I don't want you here. And then she's well, I can show you where the water is, because I'm the only person that knows where these secret oases are and whatnot. So they go there, fill it up, knock out some poor guard who's just fucking working a job. I always feel bad for any of those guys that are just fucking working the job
now.
Yeah. And then he locks her in there, which probably is almost worse for her. But whatever. He's I gotta do this alone, I gotta go.
She's too important for them just to kill.
Yeah.
So yeah, but he ends up so basically Mila Kunis gets out of there somehow. I don't know how, but somehow she gets out of there.
I think it kind of shows that she's resourceful and she can kind of find her way out of things, and because they make her that she's sort of almost her worldly views are very shallow because all she knows is almost this town and Gary Oldman's rule, and she's almost being kind of protected by Gary Oldman at the same time. And they do. There's a good scene where it kind of comes back around where she's out looking for Denzel a second time, and she finds that girl with the fucking shopping cart who's the patsy out there. Which I don't know how. Apparently that girl with the shopping cart didn't get very far. And next thing you know, 6 other guys came by, gangbanged her, and then you will now be our new patsy.
Which that whole part, that, I like that, even though this is, a very moralist world, I kind of like how she, for a second, is oh, fuck, when she sees it's, a younger girl, she's no, you gotta go, she's well, I can help you, no, it's not supposed to be you gotta go, and then,
Well, they make it out that, because Mila Kunis goes, oh, it's somebody's in danger, she doesn't know that, hey, out here in the world, you can't trust anybody, she doesn't have that concept, which I think she probably would have that town, but apparently, it's almost being sheltered, and sort of living, in about the as high society as you can get in, the wasteland. Mm-hmm. So she sees this person, oh, I gotta fucking help this person. And that girl's just no. I literally have been stuck under this fucking shopping cart for, years. Go! Be free! We're trying to capture the black man. And then all of a sudden, these, guys come out, oh, we're gonna gangbang somebody now! And then they take her, they start, beating her and throwing her in this, dark, tunnel, and the next thing you know, fucking Denzel shows up and like blasts
Shoots-
one guy's fucking nuts off, which apparently kills him.
Well, yeah, through with like
With the crossbow, he shoots him if they killed the cat.
which would I think would be like a combination of things. Like A, yeah, that would hurt. B, blood loss. C, the fucking shot, like my nuts, and you're like your body's immediately like no point in living, just die.
Yeah.
And then the other guy gets shot through the neck. Then Denzel stands there with the bow and arrow, just like, yeah, this is just Tuesday for me.
He's like, yeah. 3 days ago, I saw this bitch.
Yeah. And then then they're just walking together, and they have this scene where she's walking, and she just kind of stops, and she kind of like cries. Denzel's kind of standing at a distance, but looking somewhat like, I don't know. Denzel's that guy. He could have the same facial expression for no matter what, but you can tell that's sad Denzel.
Yeah.
That's happy Denzel. But he could have the same exact bored expression with the aviators. Like, I know exactly what he's trying to do right now.
But they do this good scene where when Mila Kunis is just kind of like stand there, it's almost like done like just they're like walking through the desert in a sense of California, and it's almost like she realizes how horrible this outside world is. Like, you know, you think Gary Oldman's bad. Mm-hmm. You know, at least Gary Oldman's somewhat civilized in a sense. He's not really a good person, but he's civilized compared to like these total raider ruffians on the outside world that like have no morals, have no higher power, nothing. It's just everything's about survival, fucking and killing and stealing. You know, it's like the worst of the worst pirates you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
You know, somebody who in this moment of no dialogue, you can tell that she kind of understands, and that this is what Denzel's been walking through for the last 30 years. You know, this whole world of having to survive and having to be, you know, stronger, but also being a better person too.
And then they're just continuing on. We get a scene where they stop. They crash in one of the reactors, and he gives her. That's where he drops on her. Yep, I've been following a voice. I'm just doing what I'm doing.
And she can't really understand it too. Once again, she's like, "What? What do you mean somebody's telling you?" He's like, "I just hear this voice. You know, that's just what it is." And it doesn't really make any sense to her, but she starts to kind of understand. And because a world without having any religious views or anything like that.
Then we get to like probably what's one of the next best parts to me, and that's where they come to this house in the middle of nowhere. Just this old beat up house in this flat middle of nowhere.
And it's just like, it's this old farmhouse. Just looks like, you know, it's totally like where like your grandpa and grandpa.
It's a very progressive grandparents.
Where your progressive grandparents would live in the, you know, in the future. They'd have this old farmhouse that they like, you know, started living at, you know, after the wasteland. It's almost like they kind of, yeah, it's falling apart, and yes, it's dilapidated, but they're making the best of it. And they also have another interesting thing that you kind of notice, like once you realize that Denzel's blind, watching it again, there's a sign that says no trespassing. And then when he comes up on them, they're like, "Don't you see the sign?" He's like, "I didn't see the sign." You know, one of those many moments. And he even uses like kind of like echolocation when he's walking through there too. You hear him kind of make these clicking sounds right before he gets up towards the deck.
Yeah.
So there's just those little small things I just started like, you know, noticing throughout the movie. But he comes across this old couple, and they, you know, right when he knocks on the door, they pull a switch, and the ground falls out, and they're in this kind of pit there. And then they realize that, like, oh, okay, these people are just two regular people. And I think the way he kind of knows is like, well, here's a man, here's just a regular-looking girl. Like, that can't be, like, messed up in a sense, which seems kind of weird. But I guess maybe for the fact that she's not beat up, she's not mangled, it's like, oh, these are two, in a sense, civilized-looking people. They must be good. So they invite him in, and then they bring him tea. And throughout this whole movie, you keep seeing these scenes where it's like, show me your hands. And then people go, okay, but their hands are still. They're fine. But when she's bringing out the tea, her hands are shaky, sets it down, hands them the tea, and everything like that. And it's almost like they don't have to really explain it to you, but it's like it's there. And they're almost just having this conversation, like, oh, yeah, me and George here, you know, we've been living out here and, you know, making the best. Yeah, we got to deal with some raiders and stuff here and there, but, oh, hell, it's not too bad. You want some tunes? We got some tunes. George, get the fucking record player going. Ah, get it, Martha. You shut the fuck up. Like, I gotta deal with this bitch and stuff. It's almost like Everybody Loves Raymond when you get there.
No, but like,
so they're just having this time, but you can kind of see that Denzel knows what's going on. Mila Kunis maybe is a little bit out of it. She still doesn't really get it.
but she has an idea.
She has an idea that this can't be something good. And then they goes like, I need to show you something. Well, George, you don't gotta show him it right yet. We're having fucking tea with guests. He's like, no, show him it, goddammit.
Which that part I will say, I mean, it's nothing to dock the movie down for. It seems a little forced, like, let me show you something. That's where I bury people. All right, let's go get some fucking tea.
Well, I think what it was just saying, like, we're not fucking around. Like, I think it was just that kind. It was almost like a threat. Like, okay, if you guys try to pull anything, look at how many people we've killed beforehand. I think that was the whole point of it. It was to be that, because in this world, once again, everything's kind of dangerous. I mean, I think what these people are looking for, since these are like the oldest people in the movie, you know, they're like 80 years old. They really remember a more civilized time. So they kind of feel like, this is great. There's these two people who are going to come over. They're going to have tea with us. It's going to be like the olden times. But I want to make sure that they know that don't pull any funny business here. We got this fucking set up. We killed all these people. You know, because they got this graveyard of about like 30 people in their backyard, if not more. And they're like, well, it's the civilized thing to do. You don't just fucking kill a man and leave him there. You got to bury him, you know. But these people try, you know. We had to defend the house multiple times. And then the lady's like, oh, I got some sandwiches for you. And they got all this meat sitting here like that. And Denzel goes to Mila Kunis, like, don't fucking eat that. That's human.
Yeah. It's like she's like, that's great for the soil. Like, yeah, they fucking hate these people, and they get out of there. And that's where it's like, it's also one of those few, the music they're playing, it's probably because it's like one of the only records they could find. They're playing Ring My Bell, that disco, ring my bell. They're playing that song of all things.
Well, because I think, because in this world, if it's like 2040, and even though these people are like 80 years old, well, that would have been almost like the music of their time period. You know, would have been these, maybe they've been 10 years old in the 70s or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense for that kind of thing. And the thing about it is, even though these people are cannibalists, it doesn't make it out like they're like, ooh, they're scary cannibalist people. You know what I mean? It's more like, this is what they actually had to do to survive. It's literally, it's all a survival thing. It's like, they had to kill these people that came to try to kill them, and just do the fact that there's not, you know, you can't just eat anything out here. They had to eat humans. It's not like they're eating humans to be evil. It's they're eating humans to survive. And, you know, if you end up eating, you know, human brains and human spinal stuff, then you get the shaky hand things. And it's like, technically, no being is made to eat themselves. That's why in Europe they had that problem, because they're feeding cows to cows. And then you get the mad cow disease. So there's just, I don't know what it is, just biological wise, just like you're not supposed to fuck your own like relatives, you're not supposed to eat them too. Yeah.
The more you know.
Exactly. But then when we get this point too, next thing you know, fucking Gary Oldman rolls up on him because like Denzel's like, we got to get out of here. Sorry, thanks for the tea. Fuck it, we're out of here. He goes outside, it's like, oh fuck, here's Gary Oldman and the gang, and they're all pulling up, and this is where that megaphone with the Motorola comes in, and he's like, you know, come on out, bring the goddamn book. And it's funny because even though they were just about to like bust out here, he's like, you fucking cannibals, like fuck you. They're all like, now it's like, oh fuck, we're being invaded. You know, hey, George, you got any fucking guns in this place? You're like, goddamn right, I got guns. And he, like, kicks up with the couch, and there's just this arsenal underneath there. And it's probably from all the people that try to, like, kill them and stuff. They just collected all these guns over the years. So there's machine guns and shotguns and rocket launchers and all kinds of stuff inside there. I guess not rocket launchers, but all these kind of guns in there, and they start loading up. And it's almost just like, once again, it's like a Western, too. Now they're going to have this big fucking shootout at this old ranch house.
And the thing about this shootout is it's, once again, it does something different from the other ones, where it will show, like, everybody firing on Gary Oldman's side. Then it does this kind of zoom in, pans around, almost kind of like a Michael Bay, like the thing Michael Bay does in a lot of his movies.
Where the camera circles, like everything's circling.
Yeah, where I think it first started like in Bad Boys 2.
That's what I think, because they're just standing there, just the camera circling them. It's just like, we're looking cool, got guns.
But this is a lot more gritty and rougher with it. It would stop and kind of goes inside the house, and they have a conversation real quick. She's like, we gonna get through this? Like, the voice said we did. We would. Then the pans over to the old people. It's just like, what'd it say about us? It said, didn't say shit about you. And throws like a grenade out. And then it goes back to Gary Oldman, all of them firing, and then like one of them kind of pulls out like a minigun and just like...
And it's like a crank one, too. It's like a Gatling gun. It's like... Tuk, 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 tuk.
And like it's like a very short shootout, but it's fucking raw.
But it's bad. There's a part too where Ray Stevenson comes out with a rocket launcher and he shoots it and it hits Martha and it just like blows out the side of the house and everything like that. And George goes over to her, he's like, "Oh, Martha, you motherfuckers!" And like takes the gun, just starts firing off,
kills
a
bunch
couple
of
guys. Yeah, it's
yeah.
kind of badass. You watch this old man just like kicking ass, who's probably got shaky hands, so it's amazing that he can hit anything.
Years of experience.
Yeah, exactly. And then he ends up getting shot up by the Gatling gun and everything, and just kind of goes down. Eventually get to the point where, fuck, we're captured, you know. So they get brought out, and he's like, where's the fucking book? He's like, I don't have the book. Where's the fucking book? Puts a gun to his head, and then he kind of realizes it doesn't make a difference, because if you kill Denzel, you're never going to get the book. Gary Oldman knows that. So he goes, since Mila Kunis here, and that's almost like the problem of her following around, in a sense why he doesn't want her around, is if you're by yourself, there's pretty much, you got none of this collateral you got to worry about. You're all good. But the second there's somebody else there, then you're accountable for this other life. So he grabs her. He's like, well, I'll just fucking kill her. And Ray Stevens is like, no, not my prize, that's my retirement. It's like his retirement pension as he gets Mila Kunis. Don't kill her. I can live here. We can rebuild. Look at it. Look at it. It's a farmhouse.
There's a destroyed Ace Hardware right down the road.
Everything I dreamed of.
Then this is like actually as intense and dark as this scene is. It's topped off by just one little funny moment. It also says more about this world. He says like, "Where's the books?" It's behind the TV. Then he turns like one of the grunts. He says like, Go check the TV. The what? You gotta be fucking kidding me. Go get the TV. Go get the book. Looks at Ray Stevens.
Well, it's that thing is there's no TV in this world, so he wouldn't know.
I just thought it was funny. Like, I understand it, but it's just funny to me. Like, go check the TV. The what? Oh, you thought it was
The thing with the fucking box and the... God damn it!
Yeah. And then, like, when Ray Stevens goes and gets it, there's just, like, it's all these small, like, quiet moments of this movie that I think really make it stand out among other post-apocalyptic films. And he grabs the Bible and he just kind of looks at it. Like, he doesn't want to do this, but even though he grabs it, it holds on him for a minute longer than he needs to.
He looks around the house like, this could have been it. Like taking it in, like this sort of like exercise story that's not really...
The River by Bruce Springsteen starts to play as
Down by the river.
As he like caresses his hands across like the
rubs
splinter.
the Bible, touches like goes up the stairs and kind of just like touches
like a 5-minute montage. It comes like
just cuts back the camera. I'm like, where the fuck is he?
Then he just comes back. Yeah, here's
the music's playing again when he's back in the house.
Then he comes back, just abrupt cut. Yeah, here's the book. Music just stops.
He looks back.
And then,
fucking Ray, get back in the truck and drive, goddammit!
So that's where he's just like, I got the book. And then like this is like just total Gary Oldman evil shit, but it's great. And he just like he looks at it, he just smells the paper, he's like, God is good, isn't he? He's just like, yes he is. It's like, well, not all the time. Shoots Denzel point blank in the stomach. And lightning goes off that same moment.
Yeah, at the same time. And the whole point he was like, it's like, see? He's just a man like all of us. No different than anybody else around here.
Mm-hmm. He goes down. They drag Mila Kunis. And this is like just one of those like haunting kind of like Gary Oldman moments where he just leans in, gets inches from like Denzel's face. He's like, pray for me. And then just leaves him lying there in front of like this bullet-ridden house that Ray Stevens will never have.
The thing he wants and never has. And then next thing you know, they're driving away and everything like that, going back. And they got Mila Kunis in the back, and then she ends up taking just like some shoelaces or something like that and fucking strangles the driver and everything. And then it fucking flips the car over her and everything, and she breaks out, takes this grenade, fucking chucks it at one of the other ones, blows it up and everything like that. And then this kind of like action sort of goes down. And then Gary Oldman kind of goes out and leaves because they realize that they don't have enough gas. I think right here.
Yeah, that's one of the smart things. It's kind of like things you want to like. Why don't they just chase her down? Like, well, they don't got enough gas.
He's like, we got barely enough gas to get back. Do you want to follow her? He's like, no, it's not worth it. And then here's the part where the river starts playing again with the Ray Stevens' character because Mila Kunis goes back into like the fucking Suburban and gets in there, and he just looks at her like not even like angry or anything like that. He's just got this fucking knife stuck in his chest from the car accident. Looks at her, opens the door, or he pulls it out slowly, sets it down. Like, he could just, like, but he's just like, looks at her, fucking the river starts flowing. And he steps outside the car and just kind of kneels down and takes off his, like, pitch black glasses, sets them on his forehead, like, looks at the sun, like, almost like, here's my last moment. I'm just going to try to take it all in, and then dies right there. It's really like that Ray Stevens character is almost the most touching character of this movie, and it's not really even explained a whole lot of things. It's almost if you take it to the next level and you just think about it even harder. Here's this guy who's just trying to get by literally in life. He's the guy who he's taken that promotion to the the highest level job. He knows he's not working for a good company. He knows it's horrible, but he's trying to live the American dream during the wasteland, and this is what he's doing for it. And in the process, he doesn't get it, and he ends up dying, but he accepts it.
No, yeah, he is probably one of the best characters of this movie, and it's not even like, you could have taken all that dialogue and put it into a different performance, and it would have seemed like a generic right-hand man villain. but it's all his little. I'm not sure if it was the Hughes brothers or all his own little choices, his own little small details he would do, just emphasizing on just like, I don't know about this, or kind of like looks of guilt, or even that kind of thing of just trying to take in that last moment right there.
Yeah,
like all that. That's what's I think so good about Ray Stevens in the movie is how he's not written to stand out. He just stands out just because of what he does with his character.
Exactly. It's just there is a grand performance just in that. And then after
he's just the goon. He's just the right hand man. That's all he is.
Yeah, he's a character that like somebody else could have wrote a script like that and just had him be totally like kind of tossed aside. And I guess while we're talking about the script, the guy that wrote it's kind of interesting because this guy's name is Gary Whitta.
Yeah.
And he's the editor-in-chief of PC Gamer.
Oh, I didn't know
So
that.
even though they kind of say that they're not inspired by Fallout, I cannot believe that somebody who fucking works for PC Gamer was not inspired. Of course you played Fallout from the beginning if that's who you were. Obviously you played Fallout 1, 2, Fallout Tactics 3, and,
I'd say this is closer to Fallout. I mean, because even though Fallout is just a...
Maybe the
giant...
Hughes brothers might not have been inspired by it, because maybe they never played it, but
yeah.
I know for a fact that guy... Yeah, that guy's got Fallout written all over his resume.
Yeah. PC Game, that's before Fallout 3, before everybody knew Fallout.
Oh, yeah, so he's like old school Fallout. And he also wrote, he wasn't like the main writer. Yeah, he wrote After Earth, and he's actually wrote on Rogue One. I think they have other writers and stuff that have taken over since then, but he was one of the original ones there. And then the other kind of cool thing is he had a little bit of writing credits on some video games too. I think Duke Nukem Forever. I think he was also a writer on some stuff for Gears of War and other little projects. And then he also does a video game podcast. So it seems kind of like, in a sense, a different guy to write a script than you would normally get. It's a guy he's definitely a guy who's got a lot of power and stuff like that. Because PC Gamer is one of the biggest, magazines ever. I remember being as a kid, sometimes you would get a couple of those issues, even though you were more into like Nintendo and things like that. You'd still look at those PC Gamer magazines. They came with a fucking demo disc every single time, so it was always a good selling point.
Well, the thing about that right there, I think that like this movie, it's probably because Fallout is really just a big mish of bunch of different post-apocalyptic
it's
stories.
like Road Warrior, Boy and His Dog,
as well as like 1950s and 60s sci-fi horror.
propaganda stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that like this movie, I think you could watch Mad Max in Fallout and see a big enough difference. You'll see similarities, but I think since it's such a combination of things, it comes across as its own thing. Where this one, I almost feel like if you changed a few things around and had some more science fiction-y stuff in there, this could be the Fallout movie.
Oh yeah, this movie is like, it really is like a hop, skip, and a jump away from being the Fallout movie. And I think that's almost what's missing. Maybe
all you needed was some super mutant. All you needed was like a super mutant and then
a laser gun, and you'd
a laser gun, and maybe like some like irradiated mole rats. Beyond that, you'd probably have like this would be like the Fallout movie.
Yeah, because in a sense, this is Fallout without like almost like the sci-fi. They're not really fantasy, but just more super sci-fi in this because it's not
slightly
really
fantasy. Because no offense to religious people who listen to us, but it's fantasy because
the religious thing.
Which I'm not trying. That sounds very condescending. Yeah, I'm not trying to be like that atheist. Like you should, that.
But it's true. It is fantasy. I mean, like that's what religion is. It's fantasy. It's no different. Because if somebody's gonna call fucking Norse fantasy, fucking Christianity's fantasy, what's the difference? Exactly. Right. You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I'm not trying to be that guy who's just trying to shit on like people's like.
I'm not shitting on. I'm just pointing out the truth. God damn it!
I
ain't gonna bullshit you, boy.
Just trying to slap some smarts into you. That's all I'm trying to do. No, but like
that's what the dad came up. He's like, believing in those fucking nudie magazines. He's like, God doesn't look at the nudie magazines.
But he took it from him. That dad was jerking off to it later.
You're jerking off. He's like,
well, the evangelical television program's going on. Yeah. So then So
Mila Kunis takes the Suburban and fucking goes to find Denzel.
He's walking with a gunshot wound, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta keep going.
I gotta go west.
Gotta go west." And that's when they come to, oh shit, they are in California because that's San Francisco.
Which this always makes me laugh in like every movie, and I know why they do it because it's a landmark. But they always go over the Golden Gate Bridge, which is like the most impractical bridge to go over, going to San Francisco, because the Golden Gate Bridge goes north. If you're coming to San Francisco from the west, you would have to take the Bay Bridge, but nobody wants to go over the Bay Bridge because it's not iconic or anything like that. it's like, unless you're going to like Sausalito or something like that, you don't fucking go. Nobody goes over the Golden Gate Bridge. It's like, you know what I mean? But in every movie, they always show people coming in that direction, which you know they never would. It's like also in like Big Trouble in Little China when Kurt Russell's coming in on the Pork Chop Express here. He's going over the Golden Gate, which just always makes you laugh. Because that one, I mean, maybe it's a little bit different. Maybe he was coming from Sausalito or something like that. But
they drove through Sausalito real quickly. It's like, this is a really nice part of town. Okay.
Yeah, they got a cool anime shop here.
Little Tintin shit.
When I was a kid, I used to always love going to Sausalito because I always knew that they had this sweet anime and action figure shop up there that like you couldn't get anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. Which seems so weird for Sausalito of all things.
No, it's all like, it seems so weird for a fucking 10-year-old boy to be so excited to go to Sausalito.
Which is all like, you know, don't get me wrong.
It's like yuppie as fuck.
It's very beautiful, but yeah, yuppie as fuck. It's like, we got some fine cheeses, some wine tasting,
and then there's
live jazz.
Let's get Japanese anime and action figures plays over here. I guess you could go to. Because like at that time period, it was just like pre-internet, pre all this stuff, and they had like fucking, you know, all these action figures straight from Japan. It like blew your mind.
It's like, yes, Chaz and Chad's son likes that shit over here. Yeah, they're very progressive. I mean, you wouldn't think they vote Republican, but they do. You know?
But so they get to San Francisco, and then they take this little rowboat across, and you can tell that Denzel's kind of like dying at this part, because first he's rowing, and then all of a sudden he can't do it anymore, so Mila Kunis takes over. And they got these cool shots of San Francisco all destroyed and whatnot, but it's almost like the difference is that even though it's destroyed and everything, it's almost like coming back to life. They even have a neat scene when they get close to San Francisco when they're like, can you smell it? There's salt in the air. We're getting close. And it shows this big wide shot where you can see like, here's desert, and it fades into where things are starting to get green again.
Because there is so much more color when they get to San Francisco.
Yeah, because the whole movie's almost it's close to being black and white. It's very desaturated.
Gray, maybe some really, really dark green.
Yeah, maybe. Some browns, some things like that, but no real bright colors. But when you get to San Francisco, there's water, and the bridge is red, and the grass is green, and things start popping a little bit more.
Things are destroyed, but there's a lot more color to it.
And then when they go out to Alcatraz, which, I don't know, it's like, the calling was like, God wants you to go to jail. it couldn't be turned to some horrible movie. It's just like, yeah, he's this old racist white man who wants a black man to go to jail.
It's Old Testament God.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
You're the descendant of Cain, or whatever that bullshit was.
Yeah, he's like, what God sees you as is a goddamn arrow. You Muslim, you get to jail now, goddammit.
He's like, well, I followed my dreams for this. Yes, you did. Credits.
Malcolm McDowell comes out. Hey, there's one of them. Hey, dude, starts shooting guns in the air, all rootin' tootin'. But they get to Alcatraz, and instead, it's like in here, Malcolm McDowell, who does actually almost look like about as southern as could be. He's got this like long white hair. It looks like he could be owning a plantation for all we know. But it's Malcolm McDowell, so you know you can trust him.
What role has he never been untrustworthy?
So he's in here, and they kind of got this thing where he's like, oh, so you got like a museum here. He's like, well, not really. It's more of like a progressive, view of the future. And they've kind of just collected all this stuff in there. You see that they got books, and they got technology, and they got a printing press, and they're getting all these things going. And the whole thing is that, hey, we're going to build back, America starting with this place. This is the forerunning, set of it all here. This is ground zero. And as they get there, it's like, the way he gets in is he's like, oh, I got to copy the New Testament. So it's like, oh, fucking let this guy in.
Yeah.
And this whole time, is because Gary Oldman's got it. So you're kind of thinking about, like, well, wait a second. Did he switch the books out? Did he cut out the pages on the inside and put, like, a telephone book or something in there? You start questioning all these things, like, the first time you watch it, going, like, what do you mean? And Gary Oldman, the book's locked, so he can't get it open on his own. So when he's driving back, he's got to go get fucking Tom Waits to open it up for him because he's the only mechanic in town. And it keeps cutting back and forth. And then next thing you know, it says like, okay, well, Denzel tells Malcolm McDowell, he's like, okay, well, I got it here. So just get a paper and a pen and we can get this going. And it's funny because he doesn't even question it because that somebody would be like, you said you had a fucking copy of it. You said it was in bad condition too. He's like, yeah, well, all right here. It's like, for all we know, you could be just making this shit up.
But he's like, no, I got it down. Like, okay, well, let's get going. Then Frodo throws the ring into the pit of fire.
You've been reading this different book this whole time.
That's when Boba Fett comes in and kills Moby Dick.
He's just literally just like making shit up.
And that's when Jesus says, "Get off my plane," and kicks Gary Oldman out.
Who's this Gary Oldman guy? He's just a fucking dick.
Yeah, put that in the fucking book.
But they have this, like, instead they do it like in like a very, like, straight way of doing it and serious. But it works well that he just starts really, reading all this off to him, and he gets taken care of, his wound gets kind of like, not healed, but like, he's getting dressed up like this. And he's even in like this white kind of gown thing. Like he almost is this priest with a shaved head, like a monk in this, here. You tell this. And Malcolm McDowell's just writing it all down and stuff. And then it cuts back to fucking Gary Oldman and Tom Waits, and they're opening it, and he's like, be careful. And he's just like, do my fucking job. And he's there, and he's trying to break the lock and everything like that. And then he finally pops it open and everything like that, and Tom Waits goes to look at it. Gary Oldman slaps it down. He's like, no, mine. He drags it over.
Almost like a Smeagol-like fashion.
Mine, get the precious. And then he slowly opens it up and then looks at it and goes, what the fuck? And he starts flipping through it. And at first you can't really tell what it is, like almost like you're watching a movie. It's like, oh, was there something like a blank pages in there or something like that? Like, and he starts flipping through. He's like, no, what is this? What is this? And then it kind of just like focuses in on it, and you realize it's like, oh, it's all fucking Braille. And this is where it all kind of clicks. It's like this book he's been reading every single time. It's the Bible in Braille. And that's what it signifies, like, oh, fuck, he is blind. Like, before this, you don't really... There's all these little cues, but you never don't really notice it. I mean, maybe if you were really picking up on it, you could maybe do it.
Because he always had his hand on the book whenever he had it opened.
Yeah, he was always touching and everything like that. And you just thought maybe, like, he's just putting his finger underneath the line like a child or something like that, so he doesn't lose his spot.
Yeah, something like that. You find, oh, no, that's what... Then, like, that's when he brings the blind lady in. He's like, read it. What's
read this shit. She's like, well, I haven't done this like in many years. I was like, fucking learn, bitch. and then from this point on, it's almost like she goes like, she has almost this nice speech. I don't know if it's in that same exact scene, but she does the thing where she's all like, you wasted so many lives, destroyed so much of this town just for this book. And even though you have it sitting right here in front of it, it might as well be 1,000,000 miles away from you because there's nothing you can do with it. It's useless to you. And she just kind of goes through that, and that's where she touches his forehead and goes like, you're infected, you're diseased, you're going to die. And she almost has this smirk on her face, like, you finally got what you deserve for being like this evil bastard.
Yeah, and that's where he kind of like, Gary Oldman staggers out, looks down his balcony and sees like his whole bar is going
being
crazy.
Raped and pillaged, and there's just some dude sitting there in the center on a chair, like loading his shotgun.
His last employee just sitting there, like, looks up at him like, what do you want to do, man? He just loads a shotgun, just sitting there, just like, if anybody fucks with me, I'll shoot him, but I'm just going to chill here because I can't do nothing else.
Yeah, exactly. And you just see that his kind of whole world has been torn up and destroyed. And in a sense, he wasted all this time just to get this one book that he wanted to use to conquer and destroy other people's stuff. But in fact, it ended up destroying him.
Yeah, and that's just... Because that's something they don't bring into a lot of movies. Like, oh yeah, you shot your load in manpower while trying to get this thing. They never really go into that in too many action films. And that was cool they went into that. That's one of the things, like, it's all the small little details this movie has that I think makes it stand out among other post-apocalyptic films. Like,
well, yeah.
That right there, the small little things like with Ray Stevens, the small things with like Tom Waits, how they don't spoon feed you how the world works. You just see how the world works.
And they never really tell you what happened. All you know is that some kind of nuclear bomb attack, but there's not really a reason. Obviously, it must be religion's kind of what they're going with, but nothing's ever really told. And you just kind of almost indulge this movie, absorb it, and kind of, the more you watch it, the more you get to kind of make up with it and just kind of piece these things together, which is always really cool. Mm-hmm. That's what makes it kind of a nice film. And through this, he's like, now you just realize that that's the end, and Gary Oldman is just...
He's dying.
He's dying. And he almost kind of, you can even see at this moment, he just kind of gives up. Like, in his mind, it's not like he's like that evil, like, scientist, like, no, my work, blah. It's just that, like, he accepts it, and it's just like, fuck. Mm-hmm. And I'll just die, It's just like, there's nothing I can do.
Mm-hmm. And then
it cuts back, and it's almost like both these characters actually, it's because they keep going back and forth, and then the way the movie does it does it really well, where it keeps bouncing back from Denzel and Alcatraz, like writing the book down, to Gary Oldman trying to get the book open and going back and forth, and they almost have parallel like endings, where you finally cut back, and they've Malcolm McDowell's written down this whole book. They're getting it ready for the printing press, all this stuff like that. And in the process, after the book is done, Denzel's doing this narration saying like, I did it. I fulfilled your like dream, God. Got this going. Blah 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 blah. And he ends up passing away. And they go out, and he's buried out in the backyard of Alcatraz. And there's a little stone that says Eli on it. And that was like, it was almost like his goal in life was to do that. And from that point, his mission's done, so it's over with. And then the same thing with Gary Oldman. It cuts back. He's in bed. He's dying. They don't. That's actually a deleted scene. Yeah, it's a deleted scene.
But that scene, I'm glad they took that out because that gives him closure. Because he's sitting there dying, and she's reading the book to him. It's silent, but he's reading the book. She's reading the book to him. And I think that what actually works better is the fact she's like, fuck you, and leaves him to die.
I picture it like in that deleted scene. I don't picture it like she's reading the book to him. I picture he's dead, and now she's reading the book because she doesn't have to read it to him. Like, that's how I see it. Is he passed away, so now she can read it because doesn't make it. She wants to know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I see it more like that, and it's almost that they both end up dying, going after the same goal but in completely different directions.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of like it doesn't have any ending where Mila Kunis takes up almost like the mission, whatever the next mission from God is from Denzel. She takes out his blade, she takes out all his gear,
dressed like him.
Yeah, dresses like him, and then goes to the roam the wasteland. Which
she takes his iPod too. Which I wonder, I won't be buried with the iPod.
That's the only thing.
It's like, do we have to? Like she doesn't know what fucking music is.
No, yeah. But then she kind of goes out, which I will say could make for a sweet sequel. I would not mind seeing a Book of Eli sequel. Does it need one? No, but it would be kind of interesting to see what this next mission is.
The Book of Solaris.
Yeah, Book of Solaris.
Yeah, or Solara.
Solara, yeah, I guess not Solaris. Solaris is the fucking thing in DC that
Superman.
Oh yeah, that thing in Superman, yeah.
the moon, the Sun Eater.
Yeah, the Sun Eater.
Just like, I don't know how to warm the wasteland. Just has this big amoebus blob thing following him around. No.
Girl and her Solaris, best of friends till the very end. Girl and her Solaris.
I need to see that movie.
You gotta see it. I actually just bought that movie because I was like, I gotta own that one. That movie's so good. Such a cool film.
Mm-hmm.
And I just went out, I was like, gotta go out and buy it. Plus, the dog's voice in that movie sings that song too. That's what makes it cool.
He just singing it to the boy like, boy and his dog.
Well, it comes up like in the title sequence, so you don't really think about it, but it's the same actor. Best of friends till the very end.
Comes to mind as Disney's Robin Hood. When I hear that song.
I'm a little young, run through the forest, jerking off and fucking each other in the butt. I don't know.
We were gonna get there eventually. I don't know if we had a jerk off or fucking the ass joke earlier in the show, but we were gonna get there sooner or later.
But that's pretty much the whole movie there, and it's just, to me, it's like, I'd say as far as, it's up there with, like, Mad Max being, like, the other top ones, The Boy and His Dog. There was, like, another movie that's kind of, like, similar, and it came right before this one called, like, The Road, but it was, like, it was, like, the one where it's, like, that movie looks so badass on the cover. And I know I'm basing everything off the cover on that movie when I bought it, because we were so amped up. We were amped up. Oh my god, Viggo Mortensen and the boy! Like, that was like, Viggo Mortensen and the boy!
We even came up with a fucking fake song for it. You got it, we were driving to my place to watch it, we even like
all pumped up, fucking like...
Viggo and the boy! I came up with a fake song for what it should be.
And it's like, almost like people like, that's not what the movie's called, it's called The Road. Well, The Road's a fucking boring-ass name. Viggo and the boy sounds so much cooler.
And then we watched the movie, and the thing is, a lot of people love The Road. Maybe the book is better, because people I know love the book. But it's the thing about the movie is it's just kind of like, I understand what it's trying to do. The movie's trying to be a lot more of a, like a simple kind of thing. It's trying to do like, all right, they're just trying to avoid death. And it would just be a lot of, oh, there's trouble this way. Let's go around over here.
Oh, we got all that pretty easily.
And then, like, what would happen is the few times, eventually Viggo Mortensen dies, but... over like something small, but it'd be one of those things like there like no real action would happen, but you found out some of the things they were trying to avoid would have made easier if they just didn't avoid. He was almost too like worried for everything. If he trusted people a little more, he probably would have survived, probably would have been a little easier. One of those things at the end. But in all honesty though, I don't want to be a dick because I know a lot of people love that book and that movie. That makes for somewhat of a boring story to me. I understand I was trying to be experimental.
I've always kind of wondered. I don't think I have it. I think I actually almost sold the movie. I'm not too sure, but like I almost wouldn't mind watching it again just to see if I might appreciate it a little bit more the second time. But yeah, to me, like, because maybe it was one of those ones we were going in there just expecting it to be like just some fucking pretty much Book of Eli before Book of Eli.
Like I wasn't expecting a bunch of action, but I thought more like scary things or more
Well,
like
that's still action,
peril.
though, yeah.
I assume more peril would happen, but it would just be like, oh shit, there's a big group of guys. Let's hide them.
Oh,
Okay, they're gone. All right, now I'm gonna have a flashback about Charlize Theron before she goes wandering off into the snow and dying. You know.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just one of those movies. Like maybe I'll have a little bit more appreciation. I'm not gonna say it's gonna like be like, oh, this movie's fucking amazing, but I might like it a little bit more if I watched it again. But still,
And the intense things of kind of like, look, I'm gonna kill. I might have to kill. Like I like. I'm not saying. I mean, it's a horrible thought, really, but the whole thing, like, I might have to kill my son before they find him. Like the idea, he has the gun pointed to his son's head in case the bad guys find both of them.
yeah.
Like that's kind of like, oh wow, that's something I never really thought
Well,
about.
there's cool stuff in that movie. It's not like it's a bad movie. It's just kind of
Just
like
whatever.
it's just kind of bland. That's kind of how I felt. It was totally like your bland Mad Max movie. It felt like I don't know. Even though I know Book of Eli came afterwards, it feels like a cheap knockoff of Book of Eli. You know.
It's like the Book of Eli. Just like they saw that, and the Book of Eli's like,
You know what? We can make this really. You know that movie that you wish you were getting when.
let's change the color palette and let's give him a fucking sword. Done. You
The
know?
sword will be like his boy. Because Book of Eli is literally like pure perfect.
Imagine if Viggo Mortensen just grabbed the kids, started swinging around at people. Just imagine that, and I'll just make it Denzel instead, and make that boy a sword.
You know, it's one of those movies. Just I would say, yeah, it's definitely up. It's like that, and like Mad Max being like the best kind of like. I would say Mad Max, probably like Road Warrior, being like the best kind of like post-apocalyptic movies out there.
I think my favorite. I don't want to be like the new bandwagon fan, but my favorite
Fourth one.
Fourth one, I love Fury Road. That was like my favorite movie that came out last year. I love that
Fury
movie.
Road is fucking amazing though. That's like. Yeah, because I guess that's the other thing is you're just kind of fighting with classicness. With
That
Road
was
Warrior.
like literally that was the first time in a long time I was like wowed since I was a kid. It's kind of weird how something could be like there's that period in time where oh wow, look at those robots transforming. How they do that. Now it's one of those things like it's not hard. That was the last time CG really impressed me. Now CG, it's like I can see really cool CG, but it doesn't really. I feel like I've seen that all already. So now when you actually kind of go back to, you know what,
real movies,
we're really gonna crash some shit into some other shit, and how that almost kind of brings it back, you know?
Yeah, it's funny because it's just you haven't seen it in such a long time. I've been watching older movies, so it's kind of neat. But no, yeah, Mad Max, and that's funny. When I first watched Mad Max walking out the theater, I was like, this movie's amazing. People are probably gonna hate the fuck out of it though. Like that was I just didn't think anybody was gonna like that movie other than super Mad Max fans because it felt so balls to the wall, full of action, so Mad Max as can be, so like you have to be fucking into like the wasteland kind of shit to enjoy this movie. And strangely enough, people ended up loving the hell out of it, which just blows my mind because I just did not think that at all.
A small little thing links to Mad Max, and then we'll probably close out the whole Book of Eli conversation. But one small little thing, this happened to me like probably 2 or 3 weeks ago by now. I actually got to meet Courtney Eaton, who was the one of the slave girls in Immortan Joe's like whole harem.
Oh yeah. You did mention that.
Yeah, I won't like say the name of my job or anything. Basically, I short and simple, but I worked in tourism, and I had this young couple come up, and the girl looked kind of like, oh, this girl looks kind of familiar, but I didn't think anything of it. So I got them out of there. They came back later, and there's this little girl that was like really shy around them, and she asked, she's like, "Can I take a picture with you?" The guy, her boyfriend's like, "Yeah, sure." Took a picture. Like, "Oh, are you like an actor or something?" They're like, "Yeah, I'm in some Disney Channel stuff, but she's actually in she was actually in Mad Max Fury Road." I'm like, I looked at her like, "Oh yeah, I saw that. That was an awesome movie. You did a great job." It's like, "Oh, thank you so much." She was really nice. And then I said,
I'm in fucking Spunkles the Rabbit.
Then I could have just stopped there, but here's me just doing the thing I do, which is fuck up whenever I meet like a celebrity. I was just like, "Yeah, I love that movie. Like, I'm so glad you like that was my favorite movie I saw last year." Like, yeah. Then I just like, I don't know. I felt like the need to say something else. I was just like, "Yeah, my favorite part is like, when like, they grab like when they get the hook around Lord Humongous's mouth, like Humongous, like Immortan Joe's mouth and rips his jaw." That part was like amazing. That part like just threw me a curveball. Like, yeah, that part shocked me too. So I'm like, that part that had nothing to do with you, that was the most gory part of the movie, wasn't that awesome? So I feel like I was kind of a dumbass, but regardless, they were both really nice. So.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, perfect. But yeah, check out Book of Eli. If you haven't already seen it, I'll put a little Amazon link right there in the description. You can find podcasts on oldmanorange.com. where more podcasts, movies, and music and all kinds of fun stuff are located. If you want to leave a review on iTunes, that can help us out too. If you want to go that extra distance, we also got a Patreon page. Just look up Old Man Orange. Support the podcast a little bit. But other than that, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Ryan Dunigan.
We will see you next time.
Later, folks.
Thanks for listening to the Old Man Orange podcast. Check out our website at oldmanorange.com for even more podcasts, cartoons, videos, music, and more. Send us an email at oldmanorangepodcast@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review us on iTunes, Podomatic, or any of the other fine sites we might be located on. And if you want to help out even more, click on the Amazon or GameStop links on our webpage before you make any purchases there. It won't cost you a penny, but it sends us a little something our way. Thanks again, and tune in next week for more Old Man Orange Podcast.